my goodness. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so sorry. I have no idea what is going on with my tech today. It's so crazy. Thank you all so much for being here. I am here with Mr. Make It Make Sense. We are going to be getting into the 3 episodes that just dropped in the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Mims, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining me. By the way, while he drinks his water, let me tell you about who connected the two of us. None other than Mrs. Shan in Van. Hey,
Love
Shan.
Shane.
She is absolutely amazing. I'm so thankful to her for connecting the two of us. She also has a great YouTube channel where she covers pop culture news. And it was recently her birthday, so happy belated birthday to you, Shan. Mims, can you tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel off the bat before we get started here?
Well, it is pretty crazy, a little ridiculous, like me. My title is Make It Make Sense, but I mean, my mantra probably should have been Shady but Fair. So
Mhm.
we do on my channel, we do all things. We do like pop culture. We do all of the housewives that are important. Some
Mhm.
aren't so much. Some aren't so much. But I just like to have a good time. I did a colorism panel last night featuring Nikki Starr, Layla Lynn, and Brooke Ashley. And what makes my channel different is I don't just say this is what it is. I ask the question, and
Yeah.
so we had a really good time.
Awesome. You guys, colorism has been a huge topic on the Real Housewives of Potomac. So definitely make sure to check out the panel he just did on his channel yesterday. I've got a link to his YouTube channel in the description box for this video, FYI. So now when it comes to this Netflix documentary, Harry and Meghan, I want to know how you guys felt about it in terms of general thoughts. Was it what you thought it would be? Or did it turn out to be a little bit differently? Just so you guys remember, we've only seen the first 3 episodes so far. There are going to be more episodes dropping. I did kind of start off a conversation about this with Mims shortly before starting the stream with you guys. And what I told him was, listen, I was a little bit kind of, I don't want to say blindsided, but pleasantly surprised by the special because I felt like the British media and the press, for months, they've been claiming this is going to be an attack on the royal family. Harry's going to sever ties once and for all. But this did not at all feel like that to me personally. And I want to know if you guys felt differently about that. Did you, Mims?
Like I was telling you a little bit earlier, I do deep dives, and I wanted to know what both sides of the spectrum kind of believe. So of course I went to Piers Morgan. Is it Morgan?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He said very specifically that the trailer showed cuts of his ex-girlfriend. I remember like Davies was one. She was a South African young lady, and there were paparazzi photos of her. And so I was like, wow, this documentary seems so well put together. Why would they try to make it seem like those shots of his ex-girlfriends from the 2000s were Meghan and how that applied to Meghan? And now we know it was literally him talking about his ex-girlfriend. So
Yeah.
mystery solved. I thought that was crazy.
Exactly. And you know what's so funny about the British press? By the way, thank you all so much for being here. I'm here with Mims, Mr. Make It Make Sense. He's got an awesome pop culture YouTube channel where he's shady but fair. I've got a link to it in the description box down below. So one thing that's really interesting about the British press, and I don't want to feel like I'm hating on them or anything like that, but I do remember there was a YouTube channel that kind of exposed the way that some of the people who are considered professional royal correspondents or in the whatever, they expose how they would be willing to lie about things that they haven't seen just to malign Meghan and Harry. So they staged a fake interview about for example, something a book or something that was about to come out about Meghan and Harry. And so they asked the people, can you say this? Can you say that? And they all just agreed to do it basically without, having seen or read the thing at all. So I felt like that was really heavily exposed. And speaking about official royal correspondence, did you, Mims, notice how Harry was kind of slickly exposing what it meant to be an official royal correspondent?
He did it all throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
There were times where I picked up on the shade, but I'm glad that he did it because as an American, I'm not familiar with that. We know that celebs out here can basically buy whatever headlines you want.
Yeah.
You have enough ad revenue generated on a certain platform, you're going to be able to purchase it. So it was really funny to hear him say, about his comms team, and I think they're
Mhm.
called royal correspondents. But he basically did this
Yeah.
experts on the royal family.
Exactly. It was so funny. And he literally in black and white says it, but not in an aggressive way. He just says, yeah, they're like an extended PR branch for the royal family. It's like a give and take sort of situation. And so I kind of wondered when he talked about that and the way that these people are kind of the family makes him feel entitled to certain things. Did it make you feel a little bit odd when he explains the way that he was hounded 10 times more than usual after the death of his mother? Do you remember catching that? He was like still very young, like maybe 11 or something like that, going to school, and the press would show up there, try to get photos of him, and then they would start making articles claiming that he was doing drugs in school and this, that, and the other. And you kind of wonder, well, why wouldn't the family protect him from that if they have some sort of a relationship with the press, right?
um, I definitely remember that. My big takeaway from that was him exposing his father. I'm shady but fair,
Yes.
and I pick up
Uh-huh.
on all shade. So when he was talking about how hard it was to navigate life without a mom, he also
Uh-huh.
said, and no guidance.
Wasn't that? Yeah, that was really telling. No guidance from his father with all the resources in the world to help this young boy who just lost his dad. Nothing.
That was like, okay, Harry, point to the Royals. They knew that you were going to say and do things like that. And I mean, people are smarter these days.
Mhm.
People who watch these shows, people who watch documentaries, there's a wealth of information in all these things, and now people can see the inside. You might have gotten away with that a
Yeah.
couple years ago, Harry, but now people know you just shaded the soon-to-be king by letting the world know that he wasn't there for you, and you weren't even allowed to cry at your mother's funeral.
Hmm. Well, I've got a question for you and everybody in the chat about that. So Harry says, listen, when I was a young boy losing his mom, my dad was not there to support me. So I noticed a lot of people complain about him or Meghan talking about their negative experience. Is it not his right to say that? Or should he have to hide the quote unquote dirty laundry of his family? Is it a betrayal for him to come out and say that, do you think? Or was it fair?
I think that everybody has a story to tell.
Hmm.
However, again, I'm not saying this is me. I'm just from an outsider's perspective. The average American, the average British person, the average person around the globe is broke.
Hmm.
So the issue that they take with Harry and Meghan talking about how difficult it is because they've been afforded every luxury in life. And so
Hmm.
people expect that if you are afforded those luxuries, you are to pay the cost. And when they speak out and tell their truth,
Yeah.
it's like a slap in the face to the British government, who are, for lack of a better term, paying them and supporting their lifestyle.
But is it fair? Because he did not sign up for this. You know what I mean? Like, I would
Mhm.
understand people saying that about someone who decided to be an actress or a singer or an actor or whatever, a public facing thing, and then they complain about paparazzi or whatever. Like, that comes with the territory. But Harry was born into this. He did not choose it. And this is something that has caused him a significant amount of pain and trauma. So I kind of feel, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. Like, he didn't ask for it at all, and I feel like it's a horrible thing to be born into. Yeah, you have money, but what else do you have? It really is what they call a gilded cage.
It would be like someone who is, let's say, Grace, your mother owned all the Targets in
Mhm.
Britain, and so you wanted to be a writer. And so your mom said, "No, you're my only child. I need you to carry on my family business." And you said, "No." I think
Mhm.
that's your right to say no, but I do think that people can look at it like, well, wow, she went to Columbia because her mom paid for it. She
Mhm.
everything that you have in life is as a result of your family. So I think that what they did was the right thing for their family. And we
Mhm.
now know that they didn't have that much money, because when they left, they had to pay back, I think, like 2.5 million or something like that.
Yeah.
But now they just got an $80 million contract with Netflix, and they're living
Mhm.
next to Oprah in
Yeah.
Montecitos.
As they deserve. Honestly, I love this couple. Full disclosure, y'all. I love them. I'm so happy for them, and I want to see them continue to win at the end of the day. And speaking of this couple, I kind of jumped ahead here. I'm curious how you, Mims, and everyone in the chat as well felt about their love story, seeing where it began through Instagram. I thought it was a friend being like, hey, I know somebody. That's the kind of impression I got initially in regards to how they got together. But to hear that Harry had a secret Instagram account and he saw Meghan in a puppy filter. Did that surprise you?
I was glad to hear it, because a lot of people connect through social media and through apps these days. What's funny is, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a prince or a princess, make sure
Yeah.
you get that blue check, because the blue check is so much more official now. You know that princes are looking. So
Yeah. I swear, honestly, what are the freaking odds of that? It was really incredible to see that kind of play out and develop. And I don't know, it's just so interesting. I'm quite impressed by the two of them, that the pressure of everything didn't break them as a couple, because leading up to the wedding, especially, remember, it gets announced that they're engaged. And that's when her family starts going crazy. The sister comes out with stories, the dad starts staging photos and coming out with statements and stuff like that. Did you kind of have an opinion of her father and her sister going into this? Were you keeping up with all of the circus surrounding them?
I think that I don't know this. I don't know if you have an allegedly banner, but I think it was brilliant for them to bring out the niece and show her long-standing relationship with
Yeah.
Meghan, juxtaposed with the mother, who Meghan claims that she didn't really know. So I think the niece's mom is trash. Just my
Mhm.
personal opinion. And I think that there might have been some, maybe, substance abuse there, and that's why she was taken away from her mother. The
Mhm.
dad, however, was very surprising. But at the moment that you are becoming a princess, it might be, like, I don't know, pertinent to infuse your parents with security, money, take them out of scenarios where the paparazzi can follow them and shoot them day to day, and work
Mhm.
with your comm team to see they can how they can stop it before it starts. They can't do anything with the sister. The sister is a
Mhm.
loose cannon,
Yeah.
and she's been a loose cannon. But the
Mhm.
father, that felt so horrible, to think
Mhm.
that he would sell out his daughter like that.
Exactly. I know that with the father, we saw some of the texts and everything of Meghan and Harry saying, listen, we'll get you out of there. Because he was supposed to come to England for the wedding a week early or something like that. So they
Your
said, we'll
daughter's a
get you.
princess.
Yeah. They're like, we'll come get you even earlier than that if you want. And then he stopped answering their calls, responding to texts or anything like that. So that, I don't know what happened there. So if we back up to her sister, Samantha really is a piece of work. The way that she put out so many statements about Meghan, and then come to find out this girl has no custody of 3 out of 3 kids, like 0 of her kids she had custody of. Right. And then the sister is closer to Meghan that she is to her. She considers Meghan to be a sisterly or a motherly figure. Like, that really spoke volumes to me about Samantha. And I kind of want to know how you feel, and everyone in the chat, about
I know what
the,
you're about to say.
yeah, like the niece ultimately not being invited to the wedding. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
You know what? When I heard that, it was like jaw dropping, but it probably speaks to that being one of the last straws for Meghan, right?
Mhm.
Like, here's somebody you love. This is the biggest moment of your life. We saw a picture where Meghan, I think, was at her wedding,
Mhm.
and you can't speak about it. You can't do anything, because now you are part of the machine. That was
Mhm.
probably heartbreaking for both young ladies to experience. And I don't know. I almost feel like Meghan would have broken away from the status quo earlier, and
Yeah.
just spoke to the press and said, "This is my niece. She was, raised by her grandparents, because for whatever reason her mother couldn't do it, and now I'm not going to let her mother stop her from experiencing this with me." But I knew she couldn't do that. But that would have been great if she did, though.
I completely agree. I felt like they should have had her come anyway and just had extra security for her where paparazzi or whatever, the press would not be able to hound her with questions or whatnot. Especially when you consider the fact that they still were fighting for the dad to come to the wedding after it came out that he was staging photos and like doing interviews and stuff. Like we saw the text when they were like, Dad, we'll get you earlier, we'll do this. Why keep giving grace to the father and not the niece who she was super close to? I know it's a different relationship, a parent versus a niece, especially one that you discovered later on, but I felt bad for the niece. If I were her niece, I would be pissed, right?
It's a photo thing. It's a your father's gonna walk you down the aisle thing, and I think that was it.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
That was it. That was the only thing in sight for them. Not how horrible he was. He looks grouchy. Just saying. He looks like a grouchy.
You know that video they kept showing of Meghan like panning around and she gets to him? That was a jump scare for me. I was like, oh Lord. She's like, Daddy, blah. I was like, oh Lord, don't zoom in so hard. It is true. You could see it in his face. He was not, in my opinion, he doesn't have a kind face, is what I will say about him. And I know a lot of people feel this thing about Meghan, when she talks about race and how she identifies and how she's been treated racially, this is something that kind of sets people off. And I'm curious about your opinion, Mims, and everyone in the chat, when she says that race was never brought up to her, and her mom said so as well, because she was never looked at as a Black woman or anything like that. People typically thought she was just, and someone else said it, her casting agent, that she was a sun-kissed white woman. How did you feel about that?
I'm nervous. I want to say when she has her hair like flat ironed,
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. But as a child growing up under your mother's tutelage and her being
Yeah.
a brown skinned Black lady, it's
Mm-hmm.
weird to hear her say she never had to embrace that side of her. Her natural hair, as a child, she looked like a biracial child. Her natural,
Yeah.
like, I I was so impressed with what she did with the commercial and being a spokesperson for women
Uh-huh.
that it felt not great to hear that being raised in a Black home, you never had to embrace your Black roots. And I think she grew up on Crenshaw. I mean, she grew up in Crenshaw. So that is a majority Black community. So
Uh-huh.
in what space are you not having these conversations about who you are? I think Holly Berry is a prime example of someone who
Mhm.
is biracial. Her mother sat her down and said, to the world, you look like a Black woman. And so
Mhm.
Holly Berry has always just embraced that as her identity. It's very strange to have a Black mother not talk to her child about how you identify because she's so
Absolutely.
smart.
Well, that's the thing. I felt the same way. I was like, Doria, come on now. I felt like there were so many great opportunities for this, especially when Meghan tells a story about how they were leaving a grocery store or something and someone calls her mom the N word. I felt like that would have been a great time to have a conversation about race or whatnot, right? Like, but instead, the mom ignored it and never brought it up. I feel like maybe she had some, what was that?
Really quickly,
Uh,
we've been having these conversations. They're tough conversations, but somebody in your chat, okay, and I like that name. Okay, and
yeah.
um, says, I don't like how the Black community forces biracial people to identify as Black. Meghan
Mhm.
obviously didn't have a Black girl experience. I like that she identifies as biracial. It's so different. I
Yeah.
don't think that that's what I was saying. I think that she didn't identify as biracial. It sounds like she identified as white because she said she never had a Black girl experience. So I don't know how she
Mhm.
identifies now, but I was speaking specifically on her mother not having these conversations. And then you have to have a difficult conversation when somebody calls you the N-word at the
Mhm.
ballpark. Like that was just a
Mhm.
little strange to me, but I agree. I think people should identify however they choose to.
And I will say that I completely agree. I think it's important, to honor both sides of your heritage. If you're biracial, and that's okay. I've never really liked the whole if you're one drop. And that's one thing about Halle Berry that's always kind of irritated me. When she talks about her daughter, who is 3/4 white, she says, oh, well, I consider my daughter Black. Sorry, but no. You know, Paula Patton is the same way. She's biracial. Then she's got her son, blonde hair, blue eyed. She said that she considered him black too. I said, stop, stop. But the thing about Meghan, I will agree with you on, is that she looked like a very obviously biracial child to me too. But then when she was an adult, I didn't know that she was biracial or anything like that. Because I had a friend who had a crush on the black girl in Suits. And I thought he was talking about Gina Torres. I was like, oh, her? And he was like, no, the other one. And I saw a cast photo and I didn't see another black. I didn't see Meghan as black. So I can totally understand her not having the black girl experiences. I totally do. We got a super chat from Shannon Van. Thank you so much, Shan. She says, this is for the tip jar. Great combo. You guys bring great perspectives. Thank you so much. We have to get her back on the channel. We have to do all three of us at some point for sure as well. You guys, it's always so interesting to have all sorts of different perspectives about these things because we all come from such different worlds, different countries, different cultures. So we all perceive things so differently. And I love that. One thing that's really weird, culturally speaking, like for you and I, Mims, is the way that Harry talks about his decision to propose to Meghan. Do you remember how he said that he had to wait for something and he couldn't do it outside of the UK? Do you remember what he was talking about there?
No.
Okay. So Harry says he was ready to propose to Meghan, but he had to wait for his grandma, the Queen Elizabeth, to give permission. And then after that, he could go ahead and do it, and it could not be outside of the UK. It's kind of wild to see like the cultural difference there, that you as a grown man can't even go ahead and propose to the woman you love without your grandmother's permission. Isn't that a bit interesting?
It is, but I mean, you could take it another way and say, wow, his grandmother gave permission for him to marry a non-traditional, non-traditional candidate. Because I don't want to get canceled, but the other princess jumped right into, I mean, she fell right in line. And I remember seeing her early on, and she seemed fun. She was partying and stuff like that. But as soon as that happened, she was, up and down. I thought that was very interesting, the way that they low-key shaded her as well when they were talking about how, you expect people to take off the robe of prince and princess once you get through the door to your friend's house or your family's house. But the prince and the princess don't do that. And they don't even want to hug you. And hugging is jarring. So I was like, wow.
It's crazy. Barefoot, ripped jeans and stuff. Like I wonder what William and Kate were wearing when they went over there. I thought that was quite
probably Tom Ford.
Dress shoes and everything. Okay, and it wasn't Meghan describing really the relationship with the niece. Yeah, she talks a little bit about it, but it was the niece who was talking about how much like they spent together, how much time they spent together, and how Meghan was like a sister and a mother figure to her as well. Now, I have to ask.
Oh, wow.
What?
This.
Oh my God. Stop it. I don't believe that at all. Do you believe this, Mims, that it was Meghan's decision not to invite the niece out of One thing about Meghan is that face card never declined. I don't think she's worried about. She is absolutely stunning. I don't think she'd be worried about another woman. I wouldn't.
The niece looks like her sister. I mean, they resemble each other. It's so funny that their genealogy is only half and half sister. The fact that the niece looks like Meghan was crazy to me.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like she's like Meghan with like blue eyes and pale skin. Now, I kind of wonder, going back to touch on the race a little bit, there was a chapter where we talked about what their relationship meant for Black Brits in particular. Do you guys think that Black people maybe put a little bit too much emotional emphasis on their relationship or anything like that? Do you feel like it was a bit too much, or do you think it was a natural reaction to seeing such an institution welcome a biracial woman, or seemingly welcome a biracial woman?
I'm not even British, and I was like, yes, they have some color in the royal family. So I can only imagine those Black citizens of Britain who are now seeing that the Queen is, saying, I accept this biracial woman. I thought I was extremely happy. I was wrapped up in the love story initially.
Yeah, same here. I felt like it was exciting. It was refreshing. And we did get to see a lot of comments kind of from people in the crowd excited to meet her and talking about how exciting it is to see, a woman of color kind of join the family at some point. Now, in the last kind of bit of the documentary series so far in episode 3. By the way, you guys, I am joined by Mims Make It Make Sense. He's got a wonderful YouTube channel where he is shady but fair. He talks about pop culture, celebrity news, reality TV, you name it. I've got a link to his channel in the description box down below. Now, real quick, before we let him go, I wanted to get into the final chapter of this where they kind of talk about Harry's own racial missteps. Remember, at a certain point when he was younger, I believe he was in his early 20s, he dressed up for Halloween as a Nazi officer. And then he accepted responsibility for that. He took accountability. He spoke with rabbis and stuff like that. How did you feel about that and bringing that up instead of shying away from it?
I think it was absolutely necessary for them to do. I like the fact that they're giving their complete story, or at least their version of it. And had he not done that, I think his opposition would have thrown it in his face. Oh, so we're not going to talk about that. So, and did he go to Africa after that?
He had been going since before. So Africa, he started going when he was about 15 to Lesotho, 15, 16-ish. So that was always a big part. That's another thing that makes it so odd that he would wear that uniform or anything like that.
Yeah, it was definitely a Lisa Rinna husband moment.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, he did wear that thing.
Harry Hamlin, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe all Harrys do that at some point. I don't know.
It's a Harry thing. Well, here's like the interesting thing about that. It's that they brought up the Blackamoor brooch as well when Meghan had her first kind of Christmas dinner and everything like that. And then Princess Anne or something like that. Not Princess Anne, Princess something. It starts with a K. She wears this Blackamoor brooch on the way to dinner, and that was a huge thing. And so I like that they brought that up while also bringing up Harry's own missteps as well. Real quick, we got a super chat from Trent King. Hi, Trent. Thank you so much for the support. He says, I'm at work. I'll catch the playback. Shout outs to the lab collab. Shout out to the collabs with Mims and Grace. Thank you so much. It's so, Trent is always, what was that?
No, I love Trent. I've been following him in the comment sections for years, and he threw a curveball, and I was like, Layla, you got it? And Layla was like, what? Like, this is live on air last night.
He's amazing. He is always supporting us in our weekly Real Housewives of Potomac live streams with Layla and Kempire as well. Same with you, Mims. Thank you both for all of your support. So he did actually have someone had an interesting comment here about how even though she was biracial, Meghan mainly identified as white. I wonder how you feel about that, Mims, because I know, like Anne said earlier, Black people tend to kind of feel a bit of an ownership over biracial people, and they feel slighted if they don't identify as Black, if they identify more with their white side. Is that something that you notice? Is that something that you feel about her mainly leaning into her white side?
I don't necessarily have I don't have a problem with that. How you are, in my eyes, how you identify is how you choose to identify. That doesn't put money in my pocket. That doesn't put food on my table. So I'm here for it. I do want to. We talked about this again last night. When I was growing up, I heard all kinds of like disparaging comments about if a biracial person chose not to talk about, their Black side, if they're mixed, with Black, and, you don't want to be Black. But now I've seen a shift on YouTube where they're told, why don't you identify as biracial? Because, you are Black and white. And I personally, I don't understand it. People have tried to explain it to me, and I'm always like, I'm of the opinion that how you choose to identify is solely your business. Yeah. I've gone through enough training in corporate America to know it doesn't affect or hurt me. And if you have a certain pronoun, great, let me know. I'll use it. If Meghan identifies as a white woman because she feels she presents as a white woman, and that's your business, Meghan. I don't think that people should necessarily sit in judgment of her for that. Just my opinion.
I agree. And now, lastly here, so we've seen the first 3 episodes of the special so far. Now that we've watched them, do you think that you're going to watch the rest of it? Did it interest you? Did you enjoy the insight that you gained?
I'm not like a rom-com kind of person. So the first 2 episodes were like that to me.
Yeah.
The 3rd episode was a little juicy, and I am here for the mess. So I
Mhm.
will continue watching.
All right, I love it. I don't know exactly how many episodes are left, but I think it would be great to have more of you as we discuss the rest of it. Maybe we'll get Shan up here as well too. That might be quite fun. You guys, thank you so much for watching along with us as we discuss the 3 episodes that just dropped from Harry and Meghan's Netflix special. I know someone in the chat was saying earlier that they were on the fence about whether or not they wanted to watch it. I hope this helps, you decide one way or the other. I personally think that it is worth the watch. I think that it's quite interesting. I think that we see a different side of them. We learn a lot more about their love story, and it's not at all the way that it was kind of like portrayed as being. It felt like the palace was on the defensive for months, kind of trying to get ahead of the story, get ahead of the documentary and whatnot. But to me, it turned out to be just a gentle story between a couple talking about their lives together and like the obstacles that they faced. So it's totally worth the watch, in my opinion.
With a little shade. Don't
Yeah,
forget,
with a little
shade.
shade. Exactly. I hope we get more of the Diana stuff. I really love the way that he compares Meghan to Diana. Real quick, Mims, do you think that Meghan is similar to Diana, or at least that they would have gotten along if Diana were still with us?
Yes, because even prior, unless she had a plan at 11 to be a princess and knew that these were the steps that I was going to take, all of her philanthropic endeavors are beautiful to watch. Yes, I think from what we know about Diana, she would have liked this woman because she is her own person and she loves to give back. And that's what everybody believes about Diana.
Exactly. I love that.
Except for Camilla.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started on that woman. Anyway, you guys, if you enjoyed the stream, please do make sure to give it a thumbs up so that we can continue showing up in your newsfeed. Subscribe if you haven't already so that you can watch us recap the other episodes that drop from their documentary special. And most importantly, make sure to subscribe to Make It Make Sense on YouTube. I've got a link to his channel in the description box down below, okay? Happy holidays, you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.